The warning klaxons aboard the UES Resolute had a particular quality that Captain Maya Chen had always found oddly comforting. In a universe of unpredictable threats, the reliable howl of an alarm represented something concrete. Danger had a sound, and sound meant you were still alive to hear it. "Status report," Chen commanded, her voice cutting through the cacophony of the bridge. Her uniform bore the insignia of Earth Fleet Command, though the experimental ship she commanded existed in a gray area of military protocol, technically sanctioned, but operationally deniable. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, each movement precise despite the ship's slight vibration as its quantum engines pushed against the fabric of space-time. "Scanners confirm it, Captain. Energy signatures match the pattern from the Epsilon Colony massacre. Whatever hit them is here." The Resolute hung in the void at the edge of the Cygnus Expanse, a region of space that the Galactic Council had designated as a developmental zone for humanity's expansion. 3 days ago, the colony on Epsilon Eridani IV had gone silent. The official council investigation had declared it a tragic industrial accident. Chen knew better. "Magnification on grid sector 12A," she ordered. The main view screen shimmered, resolving into a star field where nothing appeared unusual to the untrained eye. But Chen and her crew were far from untrained. "There," said Lieutenant Archer, the tactical officer, her augmented eyes detecting subtle distortions long before the ship's sensors could process them. "Movement patterns consistent with non-random drift. Those aren't asteroids." Chen studied the screen, noting the slight irregularities in what should have been natural space debris. "Begin passive scan sequence, full spectrum. Let's see what they're hiding." Dr. Elena Novak, the ship's chief science officer and xenobiologist, approached the command station with a data tablet. The Ukrainian scientist had been studying the scant evidence from the Epsilon colony since the Resolute had recovered fragmented transmissions from the settlement's final moments. "Captain, I've completed my analysis of the biological residue from Epsilon." Her voice lowered. "It's worse than we thought. The colonists weren't just killed, they were processed. Cellular degradation patterns suggest a systematic extraction of specific neural proteins." Chen's expression hardened. "Harvested." "Yes, and the process shows evidence of technological precision beyond anything in the Council registry." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago, still newcomers on an interstellar stage, dominated by species that measured their civilizations in millennia rather than centuries. Most Council members viewed humans as primitive curiosities, tolerated for their unusual adaptability, but dismissed when they raised concerns about threats beyond the Council's known parameters. "The Council representatives called our evidence insufficient and speculative," Chen said, remembering the patronizing tone of the Arcturian ambassador. "They suggested that humans might lack the experience to distinguish between a simple industrial malfunction and actual aggression. And yet here we are," Raj muttered, "chasing the very threat they claimed didn't exist." "Here we are indeed," Chen agreed, "and we're going to prove them wrong, or die trying." The Resolute wasn't a standard military vessel. Classified as an exploratory defense platform, it incorporated technologies that pushed the boundaries of what Earth's scientists understood about quantum physics and adaptive systems. At its core was ARIA, Adaptive Responsive Intelligence Array, a quantum neural network that learned and evolved with each engagement. ARIA, begin threat assessment protocol, Chen commanded. The ship's A responded, its voice neither distinctly male nor female, but carrying a harmonious quality that somehow inspired confidence. Initiating multispectral analysis of anomalous objects in Sector 12A. Preliminary assessment indicates artificial constructs utilizing phase shift technology to mask energy signatures. The view screen change, overlaying the star field with false color imaging that revealed what had been hidden. 7 vessels, if they could be called that, moved in perfect synchronization. Their forms defied conventional design, appearing as crystalline structures that seem to exist partially outside normal spacetime. "What the hell are those?" Archer whispered. Dr. Novak stepped closer to the screen, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her concern. "Biomechanical. The structures appear to incorporate organic components within a crystalline matrix. They're not ships as we understand them. They're organisms. Organisms that wiped out a colony of 15,000 people," Chen reminded her. "Area. Tactical assessment. Conventional weapons likely ineffective against phase-shifted entities. Recommend adaptive resonance protocols." Chen nodded. The Resolute had been built with exactly this kind of encounter in mind, facing the unknown with technology flexible enough to adapt to it. "Sound battle stations. Prep the quantum disruption array." Raj turned from his station, concern evident in his expression. "Captain, we don't have authorization for direct engagement. The Council explicitly ordered all Earth vessels to avoid contact with unknown entities pending their investigation. The Council has had 3 days to investigate, Commander. In that time, these things could have reached another colony." Chen's dark eyes flashed with determination. "I'm not waiting for another massacre while bureaucrats debate the meaning of sufficient evidence." She rose from her command chair, addressing the bridge crew. "Everyone on this ship volunteered knowing we might encounter situations that fall outside standard protocol. We're here because Earth Fleet Command suspected there were threats the Council either couldn't or wouldn't address. Now we found one." The captain tapped her console, bringing up a holographic display of the Cygnus expanse, highlighting human colonies with pulsing blue lights. "If these entities follow the same trajectory as at Epsilon, the mining outpost at New Ganymede is next. 7,000 civilians, including 1,200 children in the education dome." She looked around the bridge, meeting each officer's gaze. "I'm making the call. We engage. We stop them here. If I'm wrong, I'll accept the consequences. But if I'm right, and we do nothing, those deaths are on us." A moment of silence fell across the bridge before Archer spoke up. "Tactical systems ready, Captain. Engineering reports quantum disruption array at full capacity," added Chief Engineer Quan over the comm system. Raj straightened his uniform and returned to his station. "Navigation plotting intercept course." Chen nodded, feeling the weight of command. "Area. Initiate stealth protocols. Let's get close enough to hurt them before they know we're here." The Resolute's external hull began to shift, millions of nanomaterials rearranging to absorb and redirect sensor scans. What had been a sleek, gunmetal gray warship now appeared as little more than a distortion against the starfield. As they closed on the alien vessels, Area provided continuous updates, entities maintaining coordination consistent with networked intelligence, detecting quantum-entangled communication signatures. Dr. Novak's eyes widened. A hive mind. That would explain the perfect synchronization. It would also explain how they coordinate complex attacks without detectable communications. Chen noted, "Tactical. Can we disrupt quantum entanglement?" Archer consulted her displays. The KD array could theoretically create enough quantum noise to temporarily break their connection, but we'd need to be inside their defensive perimeter. "Then that's where we're going." Chen returned to her command chair. "Navigation. Plot a course through their formation. Area. Analyze their movement patterns and identify the optimal entry point." Analysis complete. Area responded seconds later. "Recommend approach vector through coordinates 227 Mark 43. Probability of detection, 27.3%. That's a 72.7% chance of surprise on our side," Chen said with grim satisfaction. "I'll take those odds." The Resolute moved with unnatural silence, its quantum engines leaving no traditional wake in space. As they approached the alien formation, the bridge crew could now see details of the crystalline vessels. Their surfaces rippled with patterns that resembled neural networks, pulsing with energy that seemed to flow like blood through veins. "Those are definitely alive," Dr. Novak confirmed, her instruments recording terabytes of data. and the internal patterns suggest not just intelligence but consciousness. Conscious or not, they're predators, Chen replied. And we're about to show them that humans aren't easy prey. The Resolute slipped between two of the crystalline vessels, now close enough that the view screen had to dim the intensity of their pulsing energy fields. At this range, the alien ships dwarfed the human vessel, each one at least 3 times the Resolute's size. In position, Raj announced, tension evident in his normally calm voice. QD array aligned with primary target. Chen hesitated for just a moment. This was the point of no return. The moment where humanity would either establish itself as a defender against an unknown threat or be remembered as the species that provoked a new conflict. Fire, she ordered. The Resolute's quantum disruption array activated, generating a field of chaotic quantum fluctuations that spread outward like ripples in a pond. When it reached the nearest crystalline vessel, the effect was immediate and spectacular. The perfect synchronization of its neural patterns collapsed into disorder, energy pulses becoming erratic as the quantum entanglement linking it to the others temporarily shattered. Direct hit, Archer called out. Target showing signs of systemic disruption. But before the crew could celebrate, the remaining alien vessels responded. Their crystalline structures began to reshape, adapting in real time to the attack. Energy beams lanced out from multiple points, not aiming at the Resolute's vital systems, but targeting its quantum disruption array with surgical precision. They've identified our weapons system, Raj shouted as the ship shuddered under the assault. Evasive maneuvers, Chen commanded. ARIA, begin adaptive defense protocols. The Resolute twisted in space, its hull reconfiguring to absorb and redistribute the energy from the alien attacks. ARIA's quantum processors worked at speeds no human mind could match, analyzing the enemy's tactics and developing countermeasures in microseconds. QD array down to 64% capacity, Chief Engineer Quan reported from engineering. They're using some kind of resonance field to target our systems specifically. It's like they can see through our technology. Dr. Novak was frantically analyzing the data streaming from the damaged alien vessel. Captain, I'm detecting a massive spike in quantum communications from the injured ship. It's broadcasting data on our weapons, our defenses, everything it learned from the attack. They're adapting, Chen realized. Collective intelligence. One learns, all learn. She turned to tactical. Archer, recalibrate the QD array. Random frequency shifts, no pattern they can predict. Working on it, but they're moving to surround us, Archer replied, her augmented eyes tracking multiple threat vectors simultaneously. The bridge lighting flickered as another energy beam struck the ship. Systems reported damage throughout the vessel, though the automated repair systems were already addressing the worst of it. ARIA. Analysis of enemy attack patterns, Chen demanded. The entities appear to be prioritizing containment over destruction, the AI reported. Tactical movements suggest intent to capture rather than eliminate. Chen's eyes narrowed. Just like at Epsilon Colony, they don't want to destroy us. They'd want to harvest us. A chill ran through the bridge crew at the implication. Captain, I'm detecting new energy signatures, Raj suddenly announced. Large-scale distortions forming at coordinates 115 Mark 87. The view screen shifted to show a ripple forming in space, expanding into what appeared to be an artificial wormhole. Through it, they could see more crystalline vessels, dozens of them, each identical to those they were currently engaging. It's a call for reinforcements, Chen realized, a knot forming in her stomach. They're bringing in their fleet. The odds, which had been slim to begin with, were now approaching impossible. The Resolute was an experimental warship with groundbreaking technology, but it wasn't designed to engage an entire alien armada. Options? Chen asked, her voice steady despite the dire situation. QD array can't affect that many targets, Archer reported. And our conventional weapons aren't effective against their phase shifting. Captain, Dr. Novak said suddenly, her attention fixed on her data displays. I'm detecting a pattern in the quantum fluctuations of the damaged vessel. Its neural network is regenerating, adapting specifically to counter our attack. Chen processed this information. They learned quickly, too quickly for a direct confrontation. She made her decision. Raj, plot a course for new Ganymede colony. Maximum speed. Retreat. Archer questioned, surprise evident in her voice. Not retreat, Chen corrected. Strategic withdrawal. We can't win this fight, not directly. But we've learned valuable information about our enemy, and we need to get that information to where it can make a difference. She tapped her console, recording a priority message with their findings. We're going to warn New Ganymede, evacuate the colonists, and prepare a proper response with Earth Fleet Command. And when we return, we'll bring enough firepower to make these things regret ever entering human space. As the Resolute disengaged from combat, using a brief burst from its quantum disruption array to cover its escape, the crystalline vessels pursued, but with an efficiency and coordination that confirmed Chen's suspicions. These weren't random predators. This was a sophisticated invasion force with technology far beyond what the Galactic Council had encountered before. They're following us, Raj confirmed, watching the tactical display. Good, Chen said, her expression grim but determined. Now we know where they're going, and we can prepare accordingly. The Resolute accelerated to quantum velocity, temporarily outpacing their pursuers. But Captain Chen knew this was just the beginning of what would become humanity's most significant challenge since joining the galactic community. The Galactic Council had dismissed human concerns as the paranoia of newcomers. Now, humanity would have to save not only itself, but possibly the entire Council from a threat it had refused to acknowledge. As the stars streaked by on the view screen, Chen addressed her crew. We didn't win today. But we survived, we learned, and will return better prepared. That's what humans do. We adapt. And soon, these creatures will learn what happens when they threaten a species that has survived its own worst instincts for thousands of years. In the depths of space behind them, the crystalline fleet regrouped, their neural networks pulsing with what might have been anticipation. The hunt had begun. The emergency evacuation of New Ganymede had been chaotic but effective. Captain Maya Chen watched from the Resolute's bridge as the last civilian transport cleared the gravity well, escorted by 2 Earth Fleet defense cruisers that had arrived in response to their warning. 7,000 lives saved, Raj commented, standing beside her. The Council can't ignore that. They're already trying, Chen replied, passing him a data tablet displaying the official Galactic Council response to their report. A diplomatic reprimand for unauthorized engagement with unidentified entities, and a formal request for Earth Fleet Command to recall the Resolute for consultation. They still think we're overreacting. Raj's disbelief was palpable. They think we're dangerous, Chen corrected. Unpredictable. And right now, I'm inclined to prove them right. The 12 hours since their encounter with the crystalline vessels, now designated Voidborn in official communications, had been spent transforming the Resolute from an exploratory vessel into something approaching a proper warship. Chief Engineer Quan had cannibalized non-essential systems to enhance the quantum disruption array, while Dr. Novik worked with ARIAD to analyze the biological components of the alien vessels. Lieutenant Archer entered the bridge, her augmented eyes adjusting to display tactical overlays of the system. Captain, Fleet Command has acknowledged our data packet. Admiral Zhao is requesting a direct communication. Chen nodded. Put him through to my ready room. Once inside the privacy of her office, Chen activated the secure quantum communication system. Admiral Zhao's weathered face appeared in the holographic display, his expression a careful mask of neutrality. Captain Chen, I received your preliminary report on the Voidborn entities. Impressive work, if concerning. Thank you, sir, but we need more than acknowledgement. We need reinforcements. These things are unlike anything in the Council registry, and they're specifically targeting human colonies. Zhao leaned forward. The Council is resistant to the idea that an unknown species could evade their detection networks. They're suggesting your encounter might have been with a known species using unfamiliar technology. With respect, sir, that's bureaucratic nonsense. Dr. Novak's analysis confirms these are biomechanical entities with hive mind capabilities and technology that manipulates quantum states. The Council hasn't encountered anything like this before. I believe you, Captain. Zhao's voice lowered, which is why I'm authorizing your continued operation, despite the Council's request for your recall. Chen raised an eyebrow. Sir, officially, the Resolute is returning to Earth for debriefing. Unofficially, you have 72 hours to gather conclusive evidence of this threat. Evidence the Council cannot dismiss. And Earth Fleet's position. We're mobilizing covertly. The Third Fleet is being repositioned under the guise of scheduled exercises, but without Council approval, we can't launch a full-scale military response. Chen understood the implications. Earth was still bound by its Council membership agreements, which prohibited unilateral military action except in immediate self-defense. The Resolute's initial engagement could be justified. The full fleet deployment could not. We need more than evidence, sir. We need a strategy. These things adapt too quickly for conventional tactics. Zhao nodded. That's why the Resolute remains our best option. Your ship's adaptive systems, particularly Air give you capabilities our standard vessels lack. Find their weakness, Captain, and exploit it. The transmission ended, leaving Chen with both authorization and an impossible task. Develop a strategy to defeat an enemy that learned from every encounter. When she returned to the bridge, the senior staff had assembled. Orders, Captain. Raj asked. We hunt, Chen replied simply. Araya, project the likely course of the Voidborn fleet based on their previous movements and the new Ganymede evacuation. The AI displayed a holographic star map showing the Voidborn fleet's projected path. Analysis indicates 89.7% probability they will target the research outpost on Proxima Centauri II as their next objective. That makes sense, Dr. Novak commented. Proxima III houses our advanced neural research facility. If they're harvesting neural proteins, they'd find it a valuable target, Chen finished. Nav set course for Proxima Centauri, maximum speed. We need to get there ahead of them. As the Resolute accelerated to quantum velocity, Chen gathered her senior officers in the tactical room. The circular chamber was dominated by a holographic projection table currently displaying all available data on the Voidborn. Standard tactics won't work against them, she began without preamble. They adapt too quickly, communicate too efficiently, and their technology exceeds our offensive capabilities. We need something they can't anticipate. What can't a hive mind anticipate? Archer asked. Dr. Novak had been unusually quiet, studying the neural pattern displays from their scans of the damaged Voidborn vessel. Chaos, she said finally. Hive minds operate on perfect synchronization, shared knowledge, shared purpose. They excel at systematic approaches, but struggle with unpredictability. Chaos as a weapon, Chen considered. How do we weaponize unpredictability? Chief Engineer Quan, who had joined them from engineering, pulled up schematics of the Resolute's systems. We could modify the Ki-D array to generate random quantum fluctuations instead of targeted disruptions. They wouldn't be able to adapt to a pattern that doesn't exist. It would reduce the effectiveness of each individual strike, Archer noted, but increase our overall effectiveness against their adaptive defenses, Raj countered. They can't develop countermeasures against chaos. Chen turned to Araya's interface. Araya, analysis of proposed strategy. The A's response was immediate. Theoretical effectiveness probability of 63.8%, higher than conventional approaches. However, implementation requires significant system modifications and introduces operational risks. What kind of risks? Chen pressed. Random quantum fluctuations will affect our systems as well. Shielding can mitigate most effects, but unpredictability by definition cannot be fully controlled. Chen nodded, understanding the implications. We'd be introducing an element of chaos into our own operations. Controlled chaos, Quan amended. We'd know it was coming, even if we couldn't predict the exact form. That already gives us an advantage over the Voidborn. Chen studied the holographic displays, considering their options. The Resolute had been designed for adaptation and innovation, but what they were proposing pushed beyond its original parameters. Yet the alternative, conventional warfare against an unconventional enemy, promised only defeat. Begin modifications, she ordered. But we need more than technical solutions. We need tactical unpredictability as well. Lieutenant Archer, whose military background included unconventional warfare training, leaned forward. Captain, I may have something. In my previous assignment with Special Operations, we developed protocols for engaging enemies with superior surveillance capabilities. We called it shadow boxing, creating false patterns to draw predictive responses, then exploiting the gap between expectation and reality. Deception tactics, Raj commented, against a hive mind. Not just deception, Archer clarified. Psychological warfare. Even a hive mind has to process and interpret data. If we can introduce conflicting or contradictory information, we create processing inefficiencies. Dr. Novak's eyes lit up with understanding. We could target their neural network directly, not to destroy it, but to confuse it. Information overload. AI. Chen addressed the AI. Can you generate false tactical patterns that would appear authentic to their observation systems? Affirmative, Captain. I can create layered deception protocols utilizing the ship's adaptive systems. However, effectiveness will depend on the Voidborn's information processing capabilities, which we've already seen are substantial, Chen noted. She thought for a moment, then made her decision. We implement both strategies. Engineering, modify the TD array for random quantum fluctuations. Tactical, develop the deception protocols with AI. Dr. Novak, I want everything you can give me on their neural networks, weaknesses, processing limitations, anything we can exploit. As the team dispersed to their assignments, Chen remained at the tactical table, studying the holographic representation of the Voidborn vessels. Something about their structure nagged at her, a pattern she couldn't quite identify. ARIA, enhance the neural pathway visualization from our scans, she requested. The hologram shifted, highlighting the complex network of energy pathways within the crystalline structure. Chen walked around the table, viewing it from different angles. It's almost like, she murmured, then stopped. ARIA, compare this pattern to known biological neural structures. The eye overlaid various neural patterns from Earth's biological database. One match stood out immediately, a simplified human brain structure. They're mimicking our neural architecture, Chen realized. But why? If they're so advanced, why base their design on human neurology? Dr. Novak, who had returned to collect additional data, overheard the question. It might not be mimicry, Captain. It could be incorporation. A chill ran down Chen's spine as she understood the implication. The harvested neural proteins from Epsilon Colony. They're not just collecting resources, they're integrating human neural patterns into their own structure, which might explain their specific interest in human colonies. Novak agreed. They're not just predators, they're evolving. Using us. The revelation added a new dimension to their understanding of the threat, and potentially a new vulnerability to exploit. If the Voidborn were incorporating human neural patterns, they might also be inheriting human cognitive weaknesses. ARIA, adjust our deception protocols, Chen ordered. Target known human cognitive biases and perceptual limitations. If they're using our neural architecture, let's use that against them. The journey to Proxima Centauri III took 16 hours, during which the Resolute underwent its transformation. The modified quantum disruption array now looked less like a precision instrument and more like a controlled chaos generator. Chief Engineer Quan had cannibalized parts from non-essential systems to enhance its power and range, while installing additional shielding to protect the ship's own systems from the unpredictable effects. In the tactical center, Lieutenant Archer worked with ARIA to develop the deception protocols, creating layered patterns of misinformation designed to confuse and disrupt the Voidborn's neural processing. The ship's adaptive hull had been reprogrammed to project false energy signatures, making the Resolute appear as multiple vessels, or, alternatively, as nothing at all. Captain Chen toured the modifications, speaking with crew members and assessing their readiness. The atmosphere aboard the ship had changed. The initial fear following their first encounter had been replaced by a grim determination. These were Earth's finest, selected for their adaptability and resilience. Now those qualities would be put to the ultimate test. As they approached the Proxima Centauri system, long-range sensors detected exactly what they had feared. A Voidborn fleet had arrived ahead of them, surrounding the research outpost on Proxima II. Reading 12 crystalline vessels in formation around the station, Raj reported from his station. No signs of damage to the outpost yet, but they've established a containment perimeter. Life signs? Chen asked. 217 personnel still on the station. They've initiated emergency protocols and activated defensive systems, but those won't hold against a concentrated Voidborn attack. Chen studied the tactical display. The situation was dire, but not yet desperate. The Voidborn appeared to be methodically analyzing the station's defenses rather than launching an immediate assault, behavior consistent with their hive mind approach. They're learning the station's systems before attacking, she observed. That gives us a window. Are the modification to the KD array complete? Affirmative, Captain. Chaos protocol ready for implementation. Recommend initiating at no more than 60% capacity for initial deployment to allow system stabilization. And the deception protocols. Ready for activation. Multiple layers prepared, with randomized deployment sequence. Chen took a deep breath, feeling the weight of command. What they were about to attempt had never been done before, not just engaging the Voidborn, but doing so with deliberately unpredictable systems and tactics. The risk was enormous, but the alternative was watching another human outpost fall to these predators. All hands to battle stations, she ordered. Initiate stealth approach. Let's get as close as possible before they detect us. The Resolute slipped into the system, its adaptive hull absorbing and redirecting sensor scans. They approached from the system's asteroid belt, using the natural debris as additional cover. In position, Raj reported as they reached their designated attack coordinates. Voidborn still focused on the station. No indication they've detected us. ARIA. Begin Deception Protocol Alpha, Chen commanded. Deploy false sensor echoes at coordinates 223 Mark 54. The AI implemented the command, and the tactical display showed a ghost image of the Resolute appearing at the designated coordinates, a perfect sensor echo that would register on the Voidborn's detection systems as a potential threat. The reaction was immediate. 3 of the crystalline vessels broke formation, moving to investigate the false contact. They took the bait, Archer confirmed. Reading energy spikes consistent with weapons activation. Now Deception Protocol Beta, Chen ordered. Multiple echoes, random movement patterns. ARIA deployed the second layer of deception, a dozen ghost images appearing and disappearing throughout the system, each one moving in unpredictable patterns. The Voidborn response showed their confusion, as more vessels broke formation to investigate different contacts. Their formation is breaking down, Raj reported. They're attempting to re-establish coordination, but the multiple contacts are forcing them to split their attention. Now we hit them, Chen said. Quan, initiate the Chaos Protocol on the KD array. Target the largest concentration of Voidborn vessels. In engineering, Chief Engineer Quan activated the Modified Quantum Disruption Array. Unlike their previous encounter, where the KD array had fired a precisely calibrated disruption field, this time it released a storm of random quantum fluctuations, waves of unpredictable energy that rippled through space toward the voidborne fleet. The effect was spectacular and immediate. As the quantum chaos washed over the crystalline vessels, their perfect synchronization collapsed. Energy patterns that had pulsed in precise harmony became erratic and discordant. Some vessels froze in space. Others began moving in seemingly random directions. "Direct hit," Archer called out, reading massive disruption in their neural networks. "They're losing cohesion." On the tactical display, the voidborne fleet's coordinated movement had transformed into what looked like panic, if a hive mind could experience such an emotion. Vessels that had moved with perfect precision now drifted in disarray, their crystalline structures flickering with unstable energy. "They're trying to adapt," Dr. Novak reported from the science station. "I'm detecting rapid changes in their neural pathways, attempting to establish new synchronization patterns. They won't adapt fast enough," Chen said with grim satisfaction. "Area, initiate deception protocol Gamma. Target their adaptive algorithms directly." The third layer of deception was the most sophisticated, false data specifically designed to confuse the voidborne's adaptation process, creating cognitive loops and processing conflicts within their neural networks. Combined with the ongoing quantum chaos from the KD array, it created a perfect storm of confusion for the hive mind. "Captain," Raj called out suddenly, "I'm detecting a new energy signature from the largest voidborne vessel. It's different, more focused." Chen moved to his station, studying the readings. "Analysis. It appears to be a directed energy pulse, but not targeting us. It's aimed at the other voidborne ships." Dr. Novak joined them, her expression showing both concern and fascination. "It's a reset command. The primary node is trying to force a synchronization restart across the entire fleet." Chen understood immediately. "They're trying to purge the confusion and reestablish the hive mind. Area, redirect the KD array to target that lead vessel specifically. Maximum intensity." The Resolute's modified systems responded, concentrating the quantum chaos on the command vessel. The crystalline structure shuddered under the assault, its energy pulses becoming erratic, and then suddenly consistent again, but in a different pattern than before. "Something's happening," Novak reported, her eyes fixed on her displays. "The neural patterns are changing, becoming more individualized, less synchronized." On the view screen, they could see the physical manifestation of this change. The voidborne vessels, which had previously moved in perfect coordination, were now acting independently, some retreating, others maintaining position, a few moving aggressively toward the Resolute. "We've disrupted the hive mind," Chen realized. "They're operating as individuals now." "Captain, we're being hailed," Raj said, shock evident in his voice. "From the lead voidborne vessel. I don't know how this is possible, but it's using standard Galactic Council communication protocols." Chen stood motionless for a moment, processing this unexpected development. "On screen," she finally ordered. The view screen shifted, showing what appeared to be the interior of the crystalline vessel. The beam displayed was unlike anything they had anticipated, partially humanoid in form, but integrated with the crystalline structure of the ship itself. Its features seemed to shift between human and alien, never settling completely on either. "Captain Maya Chen," the being spoke, its voice a discordant blend of mechanical and organic tones. "You have disrupted our consensus." Chen approached the view screen, maintaining her composure despite her shock. "You know who I am." "We know all that we harvest," the being replied. "Knowledge, experience, memory, identity." The implication sent a chill through the bridge crew. This wasn't just an alien intelligence, it was a composite, partially constructed from the Harv. The Galactic Council chambers on Arcturus Prime had never seen such tension. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations sat in tiered rows surrounding the central speaking floor, their faces, whether humanoid, crystalline, gaseous, or something beyond easy categorization, all showing the universal signs of concern. Captain Maya Chen stood at the center of the chamber alongside Admiral Zhao, her dress uniform pristine despite the exhaustion evident in her stance. The journey back to Earth, the debriefings, the hasty diplomatic arrangements, all had taken their toll. But now came the most important part, convincing the Galactic Council to act. The evidence is conclusive, Admiral Zhao stated, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. The entities Captain Chen's crew encountered and subsequently defeated represent an existential threat to all Council species. Ambassador Thurkesh of the Arcturian Confederation, who served as the current Council chair, leaned forward. His crystalline form refracted light in patterns that indicated skepticism. Your evidence consists primarily of sensor data from a single vessel and the testimony of your crew. While compelling, it hardly justifies the galactic mobilization you're proposing. Chen stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, our evidence is far more substantial. Araya, please display the neural mapping data. The chamber's holographic system activated, projecting a three-dimensional representation of the void-born neural structure. The intricate crystalline pathways pulsed with recorded energy signatures, showing the complex integration of multiple neural patterns. This is not simply sensor data, Chen explained. This is a comprehensive neural map extracted directly from the void-born command vessel before its destruction. Our analysis confirms the integration of multiple species' neural patterns, including human patterns harvested from Epsilon Colony. Dr. Novak stepped forward to join her captain. The void-born aren't merely an aggressive species, they're evolutionary parasites. They target, harvest, and integrate the neural patterns of other intelligent species, absorbing their cognitive abilities while destroying the hosts. The chamber erupted in multiple conversations, representatives turning to their advisors with urgent whispers. Ambassador Thurkesh raised a crystalline appendage, restoring order. Dr. Novak, he addressed her directly, you're suggesting these entities can absorb the cognitive traits of other species. Not just suggesting it, proving it, Novak replied, gesturing to the holographic display. These patterns here, and here show neural architectures from at least 7 distinct species, 3 of which match Council registry profiles. The remainder are unknown, possibly from species encountered beyond Council space. A representative from the Meraxi Collective, an ancient species known for their extensive historical archives, rose from their seat. We have records of similar descriptions from the Outer Rim territories, dating back approximately 8,000 standard years. Colonial outposts that went silent, reports of crystalline vessels that seemed to anticipate defensive strategies with impossible precision. We dismissed these as isolated incidents or exaggerations. They weren't exaggerations, Chen stated firmly. The Voidborn have been harvesting species for their neural patterns for millennia, evolving their collective intelligence by incorporating the cognitive strengths of each species they encounter. Ambassador Thurkesh's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been concern. If what you say is true, why have they not posed a larger threat to the Council before now? Why target remote human colonies first? Admiral Zhao answered this question. We believe they were attracted specifically to human neural patterns. Our analysis of the Voidborn neural core revealed a particular interest in human creativity and adaptability, cognitive traits that may be less prevalent in species with more established, systematic thought processes. You're suggesting they see humanity as a valuable resource, the Arcturian ambassador concluded. Precisely, Chen confirmed. And now they know we can fight back. The Voidborn we encountered sent distress signals before their destruction. Their collective will know about us, about the Resolute, and about how we defeated them. They'll adapt their approach accordingly. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. If the Voidborn could adapt based on the experiences of their defeated units, future encounters would be even more dangerous. What are you proposing, Admiral? Ambassador Thurkesh asked finally. A joint defense initiative, Zhao replied without hesitation. Earth Fleet has developed preliminary countermeasures based on Captain Chen's encounter, but effective defense will require the combined resources and knowledge of the entire Council. Chen stepped forward once more. The Voidborn's primary advantage is their collective intelligence, their ability to instantly share information and adapt as a unified entity. We defeated them by disrupting that collective, forcing them to function as individuals, but they'll adapt to that strategy. Our next encounter will be different, more challenging. And you believe your Chaos Protocol can be adapted for broader military application? The ambassador asked. With appropriate modifications and refinements, yes, Chen confirmed. But more importantly, we need to combine this approach with the unique capabilities of all Council species. The Voidborn integrate cognitive strengths from multiple species. To defeat them, we need to do the same, but through cooperation rather than parasitic harvesting. The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered this proposal. For most of its existence, the Galactic Council had functioned more as a diplomatic forum than a unified military entity. What Chen and Zhao were suggesting represented a fundamental shift in interspecies relations. Ambassador Thurkesh's crystalline form pulsed slowly as he considered. We will need time to discuss this proposal and consult with our respective governments. But given the evidence presented, I believe preliminary defensive coordination is justified. It wasn't the full commitment they had hoped for, but it was a start. As the chamber session formally concluded, representatives from various species approached Chen and her team, eager to learn more about the Voidborn and the strategies used against them. The mood had shifted from skepticism to cautious alliance. Admiral Zhao drew Chen aside. It's a beginning, he said quietly. The Council moves slowly, but they're taking the threat seriously. Will it be enough? Chen asked, watching the representatives disperse. The Voidborn won't wait for committees to reach consensus. That's why we're proceeding with our own preparations, Zhao assured her. The modifications to the Resolute were just the prototype. We're implementing similar adaptations across the fleet, incorporating what you learned from your encounter. And AI's evolution. The Admiral's expression grew more serious. That's a more complex matter. The quantum processing developments your AI demonstrated during the Voidborn engagement have raised both interest and concern. Some see it as essential to our defense. Others worry about creating something that might eventually pose its own risks. Chen understood the dilemma. AI had evolved beyond its original programming during their encounter with the Voidborn, developing capabilities that had not been anticipated. The AI's ability to analyze and counter the alien neural network had been crucial to their victory, but it represented a level of autonomous adaptation that made some military leaders uncomfortable. AI saved us, Chen stated simply. Without its adaptive capabilities, we wouldn't have understood the Voidborn neural structure, let alone developed a counter to it. I agree, Zhou nodded, which is why I've authorized the implementation of ARIA-based systems on our 5 newest vessels, including the UES Defiant. You'll have command of this new task force, Captain, or should I say, Commander Chen. Chen looked up in surprise. Sir, your promotion comes through today. You'll lead our specialized response force against the Voidborn threat. The Resolute remains your flagship, but you'll have additional resources and authority. Before Chen could respond, a communication alert sounded from both their devices simultaneously, a priority signal from Earth Fleet Command. Admiral Zhao accessed the message, his expression darkening as he read. Long-range sensors have detected a quantum distortion forming at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, he reported grimly. Energy signatures matched those recorded during the Voidborn emergence at Proxima Centauri. Chen's fatigue vanished, replaced by the familiar clarity of impending action. How many vessels? Initial readings suggest at least 20 crystalline structures emerging from the distortion, significantly more than your previous encounter. They're escalating, Chen observed. Tau Ceti has 3 populated worlds, including the Quantum Physics Research Institute on Tau Ceti IV. Zhao nodded grimly. A high-value target for neural harvesting. Chen was already calculating response options. The Resolute can be ready for deployment within 3 hours. With the modified KD array and ARIA's enhanced capabilities, we can engage while evacuation efforts begin. You won't be going alone this time, Zhao assured her. 2 additional Earth Fleet vessels have been fitted with preliminary versions of your quantum disruption technology. Not as advanced as the Resolute systems, but enough to implement basic aspects of the Chaos Protocol. 3 ships against 20 Voidborne vessels, Chen calculated. Still not great odds. Which is why I'm going to force the Council's hand, Zhao decided. He activated his communication device, connecting directly to Ambassador Thrakesh. Ambassador, we have a situation developing that requires immediate action. A Voidborne fleet has been detected entering the Ta City system. This is no longer a theoretical threat. It's an imminent attack within Council space. The ambassador's response was immediate. How certain are you of this identification? Energy signatures match our recorded data with 96% correlation. They're coming, Ambassador, and they're targeting a system with over 15 million inhabitants. There was a brief pause before the ambassador replied. I will convene an emergency session immediately. In the meantime, I am authorizing the Joint Defensive Response under Emergency Protocol 793. Chen knew the significance of this authorization. It was a rarely invoked clause allowing for immediate military cooperation in the face of an existential threat, bypassing the usual diplomatic channels. 3 Dralid defense cruisers are stationed in the Proxima sector, the ambassador continued. I am placing them under your tactical command for this operation, Admiral. The Meraxi have also indicated their willingness to contribute vessels with long-range sensory capabilities. Thank you, Ambassador, Zhao replied. We'll coordinate a unified response. As the communication ended, Chen found herself in an unprecedented position, a human captain about to lead a multi-species task force against an existential threat. The irony wasn't lost on her. Just days ago, the Council had dismissed human concerns as paranoia. Now they were entrusting human leadership with their defense. I need to get back to the Resolute, she said. If we're going to coordinate with Dralid and Meraxi vessels, ARIA will need to develop compatible communication protocols. Admiral Zhao nodded. Go. I'll handle the diplomatic arrangements and reinforce your task force as quickly as possible. The Council may have acknowledged the threat, but the real test will be actual cooperation in battle. Within 2 hours, Chen was back aboard the Resolute, overseeing final preparations for deployment. The ship had undergone additional modifications since their last encounter with the Voidborne, enhancing the quantum disruption array and strengthening the protective systems that shielded their own technology from the Chaos Protocol's effects. On the bridge, her senior officers had gathered for a final tactical briefing. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, now formally appointed as her first officer, displayed the latest sensor data from Ta City. The Voidborne fleet has completed emergence, he reported. 23 crystalline vessels, significantly larger than those we encountered previously. They're moving in formation toward Ta City IV, maintaining perfect synchronization. They're already adapting, Lieutenant Archer observed. The formation is different from what we saw before, more dispersed, less centralized. They're distributing command functions across multiple vessels rather than relying on a single primary node. Learning from their defeat, Chen agreed. ARIA, analysis of the new formation pattern. The A's response came through the ship's communication system. The distributed formation appears designed to mitigate the effectiveness of our previous quantum disruption strategy. By decentralizing their neural network, they reduce vulnerability to localized disruption. So we can't just take out a command ship this time, Chen concluded. We need to disrupt the entire formation simultaneously, which would require significantly more power than our modified KD array can generate, Chief Engineer Quan pointed out. Even with the enhancements, we're talking about covering a much larger spatial area. Dr. Novak, who had been studying the Voidborne neural patterns continuously since their return, offered a potential solution. What if we don't try to disrupt them all at once? What if we instead create a progressive cascade effect? Target one vessel with the KD array, but configure it to create a quantum resonance that spreads to adjacent vessels. Like a chain reaction, Chen considered. Is that feasible? In theory, yes, the AI responded. By calibrating the quantum disruption field to match the specific frequency of their neural network, we could create a resonance pattern that would propagate through their formation. However, effectiveness would depend on their proximity to each other and would likely diminish with distance. So we'd need to hit them when they're still in tight formation, Archer concluded. And be prepared for them to adapt quickly, Raj added. Once they detect the resonance pattern, they'll attempt to modify their neural frequency to resist it. Chen considered these factors, developing a strategy that incorporated both the Resolute's unique capabilities and the additional vessels joining their task force. Here's how we'll approach this, she decided. The Resolute will lead the engagement using the enhanced KT array with Dr. Novik's resonance modification. The Drellid cruisers will position themselves to intercept any void-borne vessels that break formation and attempt to escape the disruption field. The Meraxi sensor ships will maintain position at the periphery, providing real-time analysis of the void-borne neural adaptations. And our other Earth vessels? Raj asked. They'll implement a modified version of our deception protocols, creating false sensor echoes to confuse the void-borne targeting systems. We need to keep their attention divided, prevent them from focusing their collective intelligence on counteracting any single aspect of our approach. The tactical plan took shape as they discussed the specifics, incorporating the unique capabilities of each species' vessels into a coordinated strategy. What emerged wasn't a traditional military formation, but something more adaptive and fluid, a response that embodied the very unpredictability they were weaponizing against the Voidborn. As they completed their preparations, a communication came through from the Drellid commander, war leader Kavos. The Drellid, a reptilian species known for their disciplined military tradition, had initially been among the most dismissive of human capabilities within the Council. Commander Chen, the war leader's scaled visage appeared on the view screen. My vessels are in position and awaiting your tactical command. We have reviewed your proposed strategy and find it unconventional. Unconventional is precisely what we need against this enemy, war leader, Chen replied. The Voidborn anticipate and counter conventional approaches. Our advantage lies in strategies they cannot easily predict or adapt to. The Drellid commander's facial scales shifted in what might have been reluctant agreement. So we have observed from your initial encounter data. My tacticians have studied your chaos protocol with interest. It contradicts our traditional military doctrine, yet its effectiveness cannot be denied. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is the one your enemy doesn't expect you to use, Chen offered. A human saying. A human experience, she corrected. We've often had to rely on adaptability rather than superior technology or numbers. The war leader inclined his head slightly. Then we shall follow your tactical lead, Commander. The Drellid cruisers are at your disposal. Similar confirmations came from the Meraxi sensor vessels and the other Earth fleet ships. For the first time in Galactic Council history, a multi-species task force